What is going on, boys? Right, so it's random, but I've sporadically decided to start filming a video now. We've got the RB25 in the car, as you all know by now, and I've slowly been figuring out the wiring. So it's basically everyone's worst nightmare, like where do you start? There's so many different wires, and it's basically just this massive bird's nest, but I've been picking through it. I've decided that I'm going to do it. I can do this. I do it for a job, obviously on houses, a lot different during the day, and I've always kind of just put it off to someone else, especially with the red car. I've just always put it in the too hard basket, don't want to know about it, can't do that. But of course you can't do it as soon as you say you can't do it. So yeah, basically this whole bird's nest. And it looks a lot worse than it is because you basically don't need a lot of this stuff. This is the Stagia harness here with the ECU. That's your main harness. Basically don't need to touch that at all. That just plugs straight in. And then there's another white plug here that once you can track down the diagram, this is basically all the chassis harness stuff. So none of that you need, which just leaves this plug here. Which, believe it or not, you only need about 7 or 8 wires from that. Maybe more, maybe about 9 or 10. 6 of them are the wiper motor. So yeah, so 6 of them are for that. We've got one here that's the indicator. I've still got to figure out that. We've got water temperature here. And then basically at the moment, all you need to get it to start is not even that. You don't even need the tacho. I just wired that up anyway. Ignition start, which is like an ignition 12 volt constant or a switched 12 volt. I can't quite remember, but yeah, so that's pretty much all you need. And then you'll see here, I've just got them in chocolate blocks for the time being to make sure that it all works. Because I don't want to go through, wire everything up, crimp it, heat sleeve, at all the whole 9 yards to find out that I've got problems, and then you got to start cutting. So that's just temporary. And then you come into the engine bay harness, and again, you don't need a lot of it. So this again is chassis stuff, redundant, don't need. And then I can't actually remember what these are now. I know one's ABS, one's something or other else. I think one might actually be the wiper motor, but you splice that in somewhere along the line to get this to work with wherever it's gone. It's probably right in front of me. Oh yeah, here. So this is the most complex plug of them all, it would seem, which is the wiper motor, which has all the different wires. And then you basically get that to work in there. It's a bit complicated. The Stagia harness has wiper amps or wiper something or other incorporated in the harness. Don't ask me how it works because I don't know. It's just what I've been reading. So once you can trace all them out, you just splice it into this plug and then you get it to work that way. And then coming along to the only ones that you really need, we've got ignition switched, battery power, and coil and injector loom, I think, is that one there, the purple and white stripe with the green and white. Yeah, and that's the only tricky one that you've got to kind of cut and change between two diagrams. Yeah, so, but that's, again, those are the 3 wires you need there. So then out of those 2 harnesses, that becomes that. I'll deepin, and maybe I'll deepin, maybe I won't, maybe I'll just permanently join them and figure out that. And then that pretty much has everything that you need to get it running sorted from that side of things. There is a bunch of, there's a few fuel pump relays that you can incorporate too, but I'm going to be doing away with all of that because I'm going to have the battery in the boot, and I'm just going to run the battery straight off there. But then you come along to here, and for now, just for the time being, the car doesn't even have a fuel tank in it, so it's not going to run, but all the cables are here. So I've just been mocking this up. I've got a negative here and a positive, and I've just been playing around with that to see what goes and what doesn't. And the fuse box side of the Stagia loom, thankfully, which was a nice surprise, plugs straight into the fuse box of the R32. So fairly common with a lot of these Nissans that a lot of things are plug and play, and that just plugged straight on in there. So that's power, and don't ask me what that is, can't remember, but that whacked that straight in. I'm hoping that everything is right there. I haven't actually looked too far into that, but from what I've been reading, it looks about right. And finally, our last little number here that people quite often forget about is the auto inhibitor switch. So basically, if your car is an auto, or the motor's an auto, there'll be an inhibitor relay, which basically tells you when the car, well, the computer tells the car when it's in park so that it can start. Otherwise, you know, when you're driving an auto car, when you're in reverse or you're in gear, you can't start the car. So basically, by bridging the inhibitor relay, you're tricking the car to be in neutral or park, if you will. So that was a little funny little number that I was getting power everywhere and everything was working great, but I couldn't get it to make any noises in the starter motor department, which then leads me to the next little escapade where I was getting a noise coming from the starter, but I wasn't getting an engagement. So basically what I diagnosed, or what I figured out was happening, is the solenoid was pushing in and then the motor wasn't engaging. And I've just bench tested the starter motor that I pulled out and the starter motor off the red car, because I do have a whole shelf of parts from this thing, and I have been saying that I'm rating parts from it left, right and center, but when I've got two of one thing, I try to make the other work. That's not from the red car for obvious reasons. Don't replace it later down the track if I don't have to, but this is what we are dealing with. So it's a little bit tricky, but it's basic concept really. So if you have basic 12 volt battery, starter motor, 2 leads, and you can trick the starter motor, well, not trick it, but you just trigger it to do what you want it to do. So if you run it between the start post and the neutral terminal, I believe, so if you wrap this around here and then you get a little bridge, then this will trigger the starter solenoid to engage. Now that's probably didn't really get a good view of that, but it's one-handed, and then that's going to stay on because it's still got power there. So take that off, and then you're sweet. And then so that gets your solenoid verified that that's going to work. And then I don't quite understand this next part how it works, but this is how I made it go. So bear with me here, but you basically get the negative and wrap it around the frame, and I managed to get it to just sit there before like that, and then you bridge the terminals to make it run. Again, one-handed, not faring well. Oh my god. Just like that. So then that somehow verifies that the starter works. I don't know. Science, all that shit. But this is the one off the red car. So then we do that on the other starter. So I've just swapped them over now. I was going to film it because it's too fiddly, but that's the one, that's the good one. So back to the same thing. Bridge that. That engages. Sweet as. Alright, so we got that sitting there. And then if you bridge these two items here, yeah, anywho, that was actually more movement than I got before. But basically, that's the gist of where we are at with this anyway, and that's been the last week or two, I guess, of just mucking around with this. A lot of learning. Yeah, never done this, never dived this deep into it before, so it's been good and semi-enjoyable. I say semi-enjoyable. Very fiddly, but you do get there in the end if you've got patience, and obviously you need diagrams. Like, I searched high and low on the internet for diagrams for the things that I needed. Couldn't find shit. And then I put a post up, and some absolute weapon, legend, hit me up and said, hey man, I've made them all. Like, he couldn't find them back in the day when he did this, you know, when everyone was doing this in the early 2000s and these things were still cheap. He was trying to do it and he couldn't find shit, so he just made them all himself. He dissected a bunch of looms and made his own diagrams, and he still had them. So how about that? Could you imagine that? No, I mean, I couldn't. And this day and age with, I mean, no offense to most of you Nissan and 90s Japanese cars, but all I'll say is the youth of today, spit as I say that, the youth of today are fucking useless. So, you know, just take it to the shop, get them to wire up, mum and dad will pay for it, bloody beauty. But that's, yeah, so that huge play there, you're blind without it, and you can trace them all out. You can continuity test each cable from where you think it might go, and you chop all the looms up, but fuck that, I did not want to get into that. So yeah, so I'm going to whack this starter motor, back in, and then see if it turns over. So if it turns over, I'll be absolutely chuffed, because there's no fuel lines, we've got nothing connected really. I need to get new plugs, I need to get a new fuel pump, I need to run another fuel line to the tank, because this thing used to be a V8, so don't need a return when you've got a carbureted V8 motor. So I need to run another fuel line, clutch master, brake master, all the rest. There's still a lot to go before it's driving, but if it turns over, that's good. That's a good start. That means we've got things happening. So I'm going to do that now. At least for everything on. Okay, so I didn't end up filming any of that because those of you that know that have put RB starter motors on before, it's not really that much of an enjoyable task, so I just wanted to get in there and get it done. So that's all done now. So here is the first look at some light action. I think it's because I don't have the brake master cylinder on that it thinks that the brake lights are on. Don't ask how that works, but basically that's what that's telling me. And then come on in here, and then we get we got life, and we got headlights, one headlight, one bulb's blown. But yeah, imagine this, driving this thing down the road with a massive blower sticking out the bonnet. What a vibe. But the moment that we've all been waiting for, will it turn over? You beauty! Oh, I'm absolutely over the moon with that. I can't believe it. That wasn't even too bad either. Oh, huge win there, boys. Huge win. So at least we have some form of life and some form of that I have done some things right. I can't actually get over that. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. So now we've just got to get on with doing the rest of the car, and we should be fine. Alright boys, so it's been about a week since I bloody looked at this thing. And to be fair, I sort of got to a point, and yeah, kind of can't be bothered with it at the moment. to be completely honest with you. But basically all we need to do is chuck some fuel in it and see if she likes it. So the fueling kit's actually turned up. We've got the fuel pump relocation kit sitting over there and a brand new fuel pump. We just need to get the tank back in it, and then we can kick her in the guts and see if she wants to do a bloody skid or two. But we need to run the hard line, which is sitting over there as well, the fuel return line. So we've got that to do. But to side quest all of that, we're actually going to get into some RB20 content this weekend. We're going to take the RB20, the sickest motor ever made. Here, it just doesn't want to play ball yet. It will be the sickest motor. Will be the sickest motor ever once we finally get to the bottom of this and give it some proper love. But we're going to rip this down, take it up to a mate in Auckland, and we're going to strip the pistons out of it and see what we can make what's what of that. Take some other pistons that I've got in a spare block out the back there, and hopefully just basically make a plan of attack to how we're going to get this thing back into action. So bear in mind, it is the rebuilt motor, so it has had all the work done to it before. It's just a matter of how much damage has been done with the unfortunate event of leaning out. So stay tuned for that, and we shall see you soon. Not too sure what will come first, whether it'll be Project SKYLINE stuff or Red SKYLINE stuff, but I'm quite keen to get back into this thing, otherwise it won't happen. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you very shortly. Cheers.